Island hopping, facts you may not know about Trinidad and Tobago. The Republic of Trinidad and Tobago is situated south of Grenada, northeast of Venezuela, and is the southernmost of the island countries in the Lesser Antilles. Trinidad and Tobago, a twin island country, consisting of two main islands and several smaller islands, was inhabited by the indigenous peoples of the Americas, as with all other West Indian islands, before the arrival of European colonizers in the 15th century. Trinidad was the earliest settled part of the Caribbean by Awaraks groups, which included the Nepoya and Sepoya-speaking peoples, and the Caribbean-speaking groups such as the Ao, at which time, Tobago was occupied by the Kalinago or Island Caribs, and the Galabai or Galena, known also as mainland Caribs, or Caribs, with all being indigenous natives to the northern coastal South American countries of Venezuela, French Guiana, Suriname, and Brazil, and who were the indigenous peoples of Trinidad and Tobago, before the arrival of Europeans in the 15th century. After much warfare and during the mid-1600s, the Dutch and Netherlanders developed a plantation economy based on sugar, rum, and indigo, which ran on the labor of African slaves. In the late 1600s, with fierce resistance from the indigenous people, and with religious conversations of the indigenous people of Trinidad and the Guianas, by the Catholic Catalan Capuchin friars, who were given an encomienda system over the native peoples, where they were forced to provide labor for the Spanish, and amid escalating tensions between both parties, stiff retaliations by the Spanish, the introduction of diseases, to which the indigenous population had no immunity, the native population was almost wiped out by the end of the 17th century. The oldest archaeological site in the West Indies is the Banwari Trace, located in southwest Trinidad, which shows the pattern of migration of pre-Ceramic peoples from mainland South America throughout the Lesser Antilles via Trinidad. During the Spanish colonization of the Americas, Trinidad, with its capital in San Jose de Orona, and later due to pirate attacks, moved to Port of Spain, was an island province belonging to the Kingdom of New Spain, together with Central America, Mexico today, and what would later become the southwestern United States. Due to underpopulation, immigration to Trinidad was encouraged in the late 1700s to Roman Catholic settlers, who were willing to swear allegiance to King Charles III of Spain, and came with an offer of free land, with additional land given to immigrants for each slave they brought with them, plus tax exemption for a decade. French planters with their slaves, mulattoes, and free coloreds from Martinique, St. Lucia, Guadeloupe, Dominica, and Grenada, migrated to Trinidad during the French Revolution, and established an agricultural economy with the production of sugar and cacao, establishing local communities in Carenage, Blanchisseuse, Pearman, Cascade, La Ventillo, and Chamfleur. First settled by the Spanish Empire, also known as the Hispanic Monarchy or Catholic Monarchy, and in conjunction with the Portuguese Empire, Trinidad and Tobago changed hands more often than any other Caribbean island, with the original colonists Spain, then the Dutch, French, Netherlander, and British empires all claiming the islands before they were granted to the British via treaty, in the early 1800s as separate states, and with the sugar industry on the verge of collapse, the two islands were made one colony in the late 1800s. By the late 1700s, Trinidad had a mixed population of Spaniards, Africans, French Republican soldiers, French aristocracy, and retired pirates, with enslaved Africans vastly outnumbering Europeans, free blacks and people of color, and indigenous people, and by then, with an invasion of Trinidad, the British sailed through the Bocas and anchored off Chigarmas, forcing the French, who were seriously outnumbered, to surrender to the British. Trinidad and Tobago under British rule, saw an influx of new settlers from the United Kingdom, British colonies in the Caribbean, German, Italian, Irish, and Scottish families, some free blacks called Americans, who were African American Marines, and former slaves, that fought for the British in the war between the United States and its indigenous allies, against the United Kingdom in British North America, and after post-war service in Bermuda, were established as a community in southern Trinidad. New states were created under British rule, and the importation of slaves increased, but with the slave trade supported by the abolitionist movement in Western Europe and the Americas, which sought to end the Atlantic slave trade, and to free enslaved people. The slave trade in Trinidad and Tobago, like in other Caribbean nations, was under attack. Slavery was abolished in the near mid-1800s, and former slaves served a further 5-year apprenticeship, which ended with their full emancipation, and Trinidad and Tobago by then having 1 slave to every 21 that was on the island of Jamaica, and due to the labor shortage, and with the refusal of many African slaves to continue plantation work, the British contracted with Indians, Chinese, and Portuguese nationalities, through an indentureship system, which compensated workers. Individuals were not considered property, employers had no legal right to whip or to flog their workers, and where contracts were for a period of 5 years, after which Indians were guaranteed return passage to India. Hence a large number of East Indians were imported, lasting from the mid-1800s to the early 1900s. Indian indentured contracts were extended to 10 years to secure labor, and the British offered portions of land to the Indians to encourage their settlement on the island. They were also subjected to Crown laws that requested they possess their documentation of status on the islands, and with the main enforcement of indenture laws being prosecution in the courts, with fines or jail sentences. Few Indians remain on Trinidad and Tobago, and African slaves formed the majority of the population on the island. Agriculture, tourism, and manufacturing are important to the economy of Trinidad and Tobago, a regional financial center, with petroleum, which was discovered in the mid-1800s, becoming a significant commodity, and giving rise to industrialization and exportation of an essential product that allows for the growth in the social structure of the country, hence accounting for the Twin Island nation to not be reliant on tourism as other Caribbean nations are, owing to its wealth that it derives from its large reserves of oil and natural gas. The nation islands of Trinidad and Tobago gained independence in 1962 and became a republic within the Commonwealth in 1976, and has 2 main political parties, with support for the parties running along ethnic lines, the islands retaining the Judicial Committee of the Privy Council, and Tobago granted limited self-rule, where its elected members serve in the 1-chambered Tobago House of Assembly. Trinidad consists of different soil types, with most of it being fine sands and or heavy clay, as well as mangrove swamps, plains, forest, rivers, savanna, and the largest natural reservoir of asphalt worldwide, while Tobago has a flat plain, a mountainous eastern side, and boasts of coral reefs off its coast. There are 472 bird species, 100 mammals, 90 reptiles, 30 amphibians, 50 freshwater fish, and an additional estimated 950 marine fish on the islands of Trinidad and Tobago. The culture of the Twin Island nation is diverse, and is influenced by indigenous, African, Indian, Creole, Chinese, European, Arab, and Latino Hispanic roots, with annual celebrations and religious festivals that revolves around steel pan music, the limbo game, calypso music, soca music, rapso music, Parang folk music, chutney soca, and chutney music. The culinary culture also influenced by ethnicity, which includes Indian, African, and colonial traditions. Education in the Twin Island country of Trinidad and Tobago is mandatory between the ages of 5 and 16, with the literacy rate standing at 98%. After elementary, students attend secondary school, then have a choice of tertiary education at local colleges and universities, including the University of the West Indies, the University of Trinidad and Tobago, and the College of Science, Technology, and Applied Arts of Trinidad and Tobago. English is the official language on the islands, with the spoken language being either Trinidadian English Creole, also influenced by French, and French Creole or Tobagonian English Creole, and which reflects the ethnic composition of Trinidad and Tobago, today, consisting of indigenous inhabitants, Indo-Trinidadians and Indo-Tobagonians, the descendants of indentured workers from India, Afro-Trinidadians and Afro-Tobagonians of African descent, with the majority being descendants of African slaves, who were forcibly transported to the islands, and the vast majority living on Tobago. the rest of the population identifying as those of mixed descent, European, Portuguese, Chinese, Arab, and Latino Hispanic. Other languages spoken on Trinidad and Tobago are Hindustani, Spanish, Tamil, Chinese, and indigenous languages. There is a ferry system on Trinidad that connect major cities with an inter-island ferry system that connects Trinidad and Tobago, as well as intercity water taxis, a public transportation system of buses and minibuses, and private taxis, with 2 international airports and the state-owned Caribbean Airlines servicing regular flights between the 2 islands, international service out of Trinidad to the Caribbean community, North America, and South America, and service out of Tobago to North America and Europe. Sports on Trinidad and Tobago include cricket, basketball, and football, with involvement in other sporting activities. The currency used in Trinidad and Tobago is the Trinidad and Tobago dollar. Thank you for watching. Please like, share and subscribe. Until next time, bye.